I like, there is no light without dark.
Yeah.
Like, you really, really, like, can't appreciate the good times unless you go through the bad times.
You can't. And I think that comes back to what we were saying, like, about, like, success and how a lot of these images that people have of, like, when they get to a certain point, they're going to be better. When life gets better in this way, they can drop this, or, you know what I mean? Like, for me, and I think for a lot of people, it was like that with weed, for example, where it would be like, oh, like, you get to this certain spot, and that's when it'll be fine. That's when I don't need to use it. But right now, I'm not forced to use it, but it's just like it's better to use it now. But then you start, like, realizing that it's just like all these dark times. I mean, they don't even have to be dark, but, like, all these times that aren't those times that you think are ideal, where, oh, you're on vacation. Like, I like to think about it like that. Like, this dark side would be, like, not even dark, but it's just like the to most people, mundane parts of life that are, like, the day in, day out hustle of life, like the working out, the studying, the going to work, like, and it's not actually mundane, because there's beauty in that. There's beauty, there's diamonds in the rough of that, like, day-to-day lifestyle. But, like, that's kind of like the dark, and the light side is, like, kind of these, like, images people set for themselves of, like, their perfect vacation, or the weekend where they don't have to worry about any of that, and all these things. But, like, it's all together. And even, like, a lot of, like, our peers and stuff who, like, go out every weekend and things of that nature, like, they themselves wouldn't enjoy that for even maybe a month they would, but, like, 2 months they wouldn't even enjoy that if they didn't have any of the school. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, all that, like, partying and stuff, that even wouldn't be fun if you didn't have anything to, like, just completely relax from or something, you know?
Yeah.
But I do think it reflects almost everywhere, the light and dark, the yin and yang. It's
Yeah, I
all
feel like the
present in
yin
one
and
bundle.
yang feels very real. Like, the more I go through life, the more I experience, the more I realize that there is this synergetic, like, push and pull of light and dark, kind of like we have here. And it really is like that. Like, it's I guess it's just the whole process of life, is that it's just this,
Mishmash.
yeah, it's this energy of swinging, of going from dark to light. And I think that there is a certain evolution you can get to where, like we've been talking about, like, I think it's really through just having discipline with yourself and sticking to things that makes you consistent. And there's always going to be the yin and yang, there's always going to be the light and the dark, but there's a sense of contentment that you can get with yourself when you stay consistent with what you're doing, and like the mentalities that you adopt and the evolution of life. When you really feel it, like, you don't break out of the cycle of yin and yang, but you can almost control it, and
Yeah, it's
not
like,
let it phase you, not let the dark take you down a dark path. Like, you feel the dark side, but you embrace the light more.
yeah, I feel like a lot of that is, like, when you think of the yin and yang, it's not like every moment does have its, like, positives and negatives, even these beautiful moments we imagine. But at the end of, like, at a certain point, it's like a lot of people's lives, almost everyone's lives, is up and downs. There's ups, there's downs. When you have certain, like, consistent habits that you really, like, enforce, like we've been doing, I think it offers, like, this lifeline of stability through it, and allows you to appreciate the up and the down. Because a lot of people in those up and downs, I feel like, especially obviously in the downs, they're just so down, and all they wish for is to be up again.
Yeah.
And in the up, they don't even remember the down. They're just kind of, like, almost cruising through the up.
Yeah.
And I think the stability of, like, no matter what, getting your workouts in, eating this certain type of food, having your body feel a certain type of way physically, it provides you a hill to stand upon, and, like, we're here, like, really, like, appreciate both sides of it.
Yeah.
Because it, like, even us, like, we're doing all these healthy habits and things of that nature, but there's still days when you're a little down.
Yeah.
There's still days when you don't want to do those things. But with this, like, lifeline that we've almost created for ourselves, of these nonstop habits that day after day we're gonna get in no matter what,
Yeah.
it removes this, like, feeling of I think a lot of people, when they're in that down part,
Yeah.
it feels like it lasts forever.
Yes.
I think even small downs that people have in their day, like this like mindset, it could be like depression, anxiety, or something. I think for a lot of people, it almost every single time they go through that feels like it lasts forever. Even most people know that it's not, but in that moment, it feels like it does. When you have this lifeline, you know it's not. You know it's just like this phase your brain goes through to, I don't know for what purpose, but it's there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it pretty much offers you something to hang on to and just realize that like these days are part of it. And if anything, these are like the really days that make it happen.
No, that's what I'm saying. And it's like you really can on those bad days, like you detach from the emotions of it. You detach from the emotions of it because like if you said that you're gonna do something, there's gonna be days where like, it gets hard and you really feel bad. Like you have that yin and yang. You're on the dark side where it's low and your frequency is low and everything you're seeing is negative. But I think the big switch is when even on those days you almost don't break that character that you told yourself you're gonna be, and you even go harder maybe. Like
if anything, that offers a high in that low.
Yeah.
Because you in that moment you can be like, hold up.
That's what gives you strength. If in those dark moments you can even go harder. And it's like you detach from that feeling. Like I was saying, it's like everything's shit, and you stick to the character.
And I think after a long time of doing that, in those lows, you're conscious of how you're winning through this like moment.
Yeah.
And when you become conscious through that, the low doesn't seem that low anymore because it's just like, if anything, it's more of a high than when you're just chilling and doing these things, because it's just like, whoa, like.
Yeah,
it was a little rough today, but like, whoa, I still got it done.
Yeah, and it's always coming because you could be in maybe a month straight of like flow state with everything, with your workouts, with your eating, and then it's gonna come where maybe a couple days or like a week or so where everything's bad.
Yeah, shit hurts, elbows hurt,
everything hurts. Like I can't
weak.
get out of bed. But then that's I think where the real you shows, like where you can really like change your life is in those hard times, just switching to no emotion and I'm gonna get done what I need to get done.
And I think it's important to note that like the real you, it doesn't mean that if you're in those moments and you're struggling in those moments, that's the real you. It means that the real you is what you define yourself as in those moments. Because in those moments, we all have decision to make.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We all have the decision to get out of bed or not, to work out or not, to eat this food or not. And in those moments, in those hard moments, is where you truly write out in like, you could say like in a video game, like your character sheet, you write out who your character is.
Yeah.
Not in those moments where everything's fine. That's not where you write it out. Because you can, in those moments, it's so easy to be whoever, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, say for example, we're just like super rich or living wherever we want to live. It's like you can do whatever you want. That's just an extension of your inner being. It's not who you are inside. But in those moments where it's hard, like that's where you're defining what you do in moments that actually require some pushback.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because if you're not pushing, what are you doing? You're cruising. Cruising isn't like an action. Who are you as a man of action? And I think that by definition, like you can only really act when you're like, you know what I mean? Like you're forced to, like physics. Like you know what I mean? It's like something will only move if another force is like acting upon it. Like you can only really act when something is holding you down or pushing you back or something like that. And that's where you're defining who you are.
Yeah, and I feel like a great example of this would be like you look at bodybuilders and like they look in the mirror every day and they look great, but they're like, no, like I could be way better.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like it's this constant like push, like you're saying, for themselves. And I don't know, that just really gets me every time because it's like that's I think where you make big gains. And on those like self-talk, it's really self-talk. On those lows, how do you talk to yourself? Do you continue to say, oh, I'm the greatest, like I can do anything, I can get this done? Or is it like on those lows you're like, oh, like I'm not gonna make it this week, like
because if it is like that on your lows, then that's not who you are yet. But when you reach that level where even on those low days you say like self-talk, you in the mirror, the days are great, you're saying you're the best, you know what I mean, you're confident, all that stuff, and then on the worst days, if you're telling yourself all these great things about yourself, even when you really don't feel like it, when you feel like shit, when something's going wrong in life, there's nothing else in the world that strays you away from being whatever you tell yourself in those bad days, you know?
Yeah.
Because if you're telling it yourself on your good days and your bad days, then you are that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But,
that's what you are.
yeah. But it is really on kind of what you tell yourself. And I think another thing with like the bodybuilder example that you said, it's like when you're constantly improving like that, like defining yourself doesn't mean like you're stagnant, you're one thing.
Yeah.
But it's when you think of yourself as a person, like, do you want to be a person who's just a certain thing? Like,
Yeah.
that's not what I want to be. I want to constantly be searching for new passions, improving at the passions that I already have, to where one day, even if it's a bad day or a good day, a week from now, I've already improved and upgraded on the things that I do in my life. You know, and that's my definition for myself is one of growth. You know what I mean? And I think it's important. Like, every day is a step forward.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people get lost from that.
That's what I think.
Because, like we say, like these talks that we have, when we have them away from the camera, for a lot of people, they are stressful.
Yeah.
And they can't have them all the time. We've noticed that we've been having them almost all the time when we're together.
Yeah.
And it's not a stressful thing, and if anything, it's a really fun thing.
If anything, it just builds you more.
It builds. And I think a lot of people, metaphorically to having these conversations, also in life, for some reason, are scared of this constant growth. It's like the metaphor of people say when you start working out, you kind of have to do it for the rest of your life, or else you're gonna. What's the point of ever doing it in the first place?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of a metaphor for how kind of life is, because at a certain point, if you're on the rise towards something, why would you ever stop? Wouldn't that make it invalid what you did before?
Yeah, and you have the energy within you to keep going, like, and that's what I think. I see what you're getting at right now, and I love that aspect of like, what's the difference between, like you said, just not stopping with it, just, you know.
Because there is none, and at a certain point, there's people who just like that. Even concept of like day after day improve is a little stressful. I mean, even at times for us, it probably is. For me, it is sometimes.
Yeah, but what's that thing that we've talked about, almost like where it's like that path is actually a lot easier, even though it seems harder. Like, what were you saying about that again? Because it really goes with what along you're saying right now.
I'm trying to think. I don't remember exactly what it is. But I think it's just that, like, those moments where you're... I mean, it kind of goes back to our last talk about regret.
Yeah.
Because in those moments where you're not growing, you usually regret it. You know? I actually don't remember what you're talking about then,
but
as
it's
in the
just
last
like,
point that I was talking.
It's even like you're saying, it's having talks like this and like sitting down with people and just talking about growth almost like wears people out, but it shouldn't. Like, us as human beings, we're supposed to evolve. If we're not evolving, we are dying. And the thing is like, people get stressed out by these deep conversations, or conversations about growth, or building your body, or leveling up, or creating a business, or anything, or filming content. And it like stresses people out, because it's like this idea that we have that work is just like work, and then there's time to relax. But I think like all human beings, like, we're supposed to be growing, and we're supposed to be like in this state of like contentment and gratitude. Like, we talk about all the time that we're just like happy now. Like, we have a lot of work to do every single day, like workouts, dieting properly, even sometimes filming these videos, just being on your stuff. And it's like, that doesn't really end with the weekend, like, because we find gratitude in the work.
Yeah.
Like, the purpose is in the work. Like, the work instills the work.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because like most people, if you got them going on that path, they would understand, but they don't at first. You know what I'm saying?
It's hard. It's hard to look at it from the outside and see.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
I think a lot of people, like, when they look at like me and you from the outside, especially like me, like I just broke up with my girlfriend, they almost see it as like this like kind of like weird thing that like everybody does after they go through a breakup or something like that. But it's like, or just finds it strange.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This like constant just like improvement.
Yeah.
But it's and it would be almost, for someone who's just content with like video games, going to partying all the time, it almost seems weird. Like, why would you do that? Why
Yeah.
would you waste your time doing that? I don't know. I feel like, just like you just said, there's once you're in it, you realize that it's just like, it's way more content. Because I don't have a lot of regrets from the last couple weeks, last couple months. Because
Yeah.
it's just like, every day I've been doing like what I know for 100% fact is benefiting me day in, day
Yeah.
out.
And there's no like you're saying, it's like people think it's this thing. There's no this thing we always see, like locking in, like this winter I'm gonna become it's not that. It's just human evolution. Like, are you evolving? Are you growing? Because the entire point of this life is evolution.
Yeah.
Like, we're born here and we grow up, and every single year we're growing. But now in this world, it's very easy to almost not grow because you can outsource your time to relaxing. And like, a lot of us young people do it. I mean, I did it for a long time. You did it for a long. Like, we have this relaxing, but I think as you get older, and maybe you might even be more wiser if you had a real relationship with somebody, and that's what showed you that you need to actually be constantly improving, because it's your world. Like, you can create your own reality, and everyone else is just trying to stop you from creating.
Yeah.
Like, you will create your own reality if you take control of your own mind. It's very easy to, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people just are cruising and just, like we said, there's no continual growth. It's almost like people need time to relax, and I get it. But if you have that fire inside of you that you can't stop, you just want to keep pushing till you get to where you're going,
Yeah.
then don't let it get extinguished by vices. Don't let it get extinguished by going out to bars and talking to people that aren't going to push you. Like, find the people who are going to make you grow. And if you can't find those people, then spend some time alone growing,
Yeah.
and you'll find the right people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that also, what was I gonna say? I really think that kind of lifestyle, it almost converges into another talk about like the people you surround yourself by, because like I like to think of it in the sense that like the stress, how people stress about like these types of conversations and the
Yeah.
constant growth, it really strikes home with me, because I know way too many people that like, it's, even if I'm on my grind, it's hard to talk like this around certain people at certain times. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And then you start realizing that like, whoa, like that time I spent with them, not that it's not valuable, but it's just like imagine if with those people you could be having these conversations all the time.
Yeah.
Like, because like we said, when me and you are hanging out, we have this nonstop every time. I know when I'm going over to your crib, it's just me and you, we're gonna get somewhere. Even if we don't get somewhere, we're pushing for it.
Yeah.
And we're just rising, stepping on these like this nonstop like stairwell of just somehow figuring out how to improve further. Even when we're not literally working on homework, working on getting a job, working on these things, even if we're literally sitting there with nothing to do, we're conversating, pondering about these things of what we could do to be better.
Yeah. Because I think it comes from an understanding of you become what you think about.
Yeah.
And I really believe that.
Yeah.
So everything that you think about, everything that you're, the way that you move around, if you move around slower, if you move around faster, like, you're becoming what you think about,
Yeah.
And
Gotta be, like I said earlier today, that quote that really struck with me. You don't, all these people like aiming to find themselves or anything of that nature, searching for their true self, like, that's all bullshit. That's all bullshit.
Yeah.
You're not finding yourself. It's not somewhere else. It's always within you.
yeah.
You gotta define who you are
Exactly.
in every single
Yeah.
moment, and in every single moment, the only way you can define yourself is by doing these things day in, day out. Because if you're
Yes.
defining yourself
That's-
as a person who works out all the time, then what the hell are you doing on that Sunday, drunk, hungover, and not working out?
Yeah.
That's not you. Because if it was you, I'm a guy who brushes my teeth. Guess what? I do that every single day.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and like you said, it's this thing that people go out and like, I'm gonna find myself. Like, you're never just gonna find yourself. You always have to find it daily. And that's the reason, like, I feel like we're able to talk like this and get to these deep conversations, is because, I wake up every morning like empty, and then I fill it with the things that elevate me to this level. So I wake up every day and I'm refinding it. I'm refinding myself every day.
And every day there's certain things that almost like, if we were to call that state like an equilibrium, there's things that throw you off sometimes.
Of course.
Sometimes you'll be blasting music, and then for a little bit I was blasting music on the way to your house before we came out here. And I got to your house and my mind was pretty empty. I mean, I literally told you, I was like, I'm not 100% sure
Yeah, I could tell by
if I'm gonna be able to get into this flow.
Right.
But then it just like, you just work towards it, and we just like, not that we like forced anything, but we just like sat down, started talking, and here I am, like, and I'm enjoying this state. There's like you said, you always have to find it every single day.
Like, we're refinding the state right now just by sitting here having this conversation.
Yeah.
And like, you don't even, and I think that's the thing, is that like, you kind of have to straighten yourself every day. Like, I've mentioned this
Same
quote
thing as
before.
straightening your posture. You know what I mean? Just like,
yeah. And I've mentioned this quote before. It was in Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. It is straight. He literally just wrote straight, not straighten. And that always hit me, because it's like, you always have to straighten yourself.
Yeah.
And it's like the same thing with defining yourself at a certain point. Like, I literally tell people, like, and I've seen people who are low a lot. They're on that negative side of the yin and yang. And you like sit down with them and you do like 100 push-ups or something, and then talk to them, and they're instantly like, yeah, I feel better. So it's almost like you need to define yourself at those moments. Like, define yourself after you go hit like a crazy workout, a crazy hit workout that gets your blood oxidation level pumping.
Yeah.
Like, define yourself there, because that's where you're at a high frequency, and then move through your day and interact with people at that level.
yeah, like say for example, you're feeling really low on a certain day, and it's literally, theoretically, even though it still is, like impossible for you to say anything good about yourself. Do something to make you say good about yourself. Even if you're like, I'm an ugly piece of shit, whatever. And then like, oh, I'm out of shape or whatever. Do something crazy. Just do it.
Yeah.
And then you'll be like, your mind will have nothing, you factually, you can't diss yourself after you do something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't.
You can't. Yeah.
And it's those standards that you set in everything in life that it's just like, if you are that, then be that. If you tell yourself you're not gonna lie anymore to anyone, no matter what, then don't do it. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing. It reverberates through everything we do, through the food. If you say you're healthy eating, then what the hell are you doing in McDonald's when you get drunk? You know what I mean? What are you doing there?
That's where you lose self-respect for yourself. Even if you're in great shape, you tell yourself you want to eat clean for your mental clarity, and then you go and you get that McDonald's on a Saturday night after you've been drinking. That's like the lowest frequency you can get to. Yeah. You're gonna be filled with regret.
You're gonna be filled with regret, but
and
it's also
no respect for yourself, regardless of how your body looks. Who cares? Maybe you're ripped. Maybe you have a six-pack and you still go to McDonald's. You're gonna feel low because you didn't listen to yourself. You literally went against yourself.
Because it's your standards. It's these things that you set for yourself. Why are you going against it? I know I don't want to eat this like processed bullshit that's in most of our like food restaurants and chains and all that stuff, especially the fast food ones.
Yeah.
So like, why, like when you say, because a lot of people I think also compromise with these things when they're under the influence of a vice, of like weed, of alcohol. A lot of times they compromise in those moments. But then you got to think about it when you separate yourself from that. Look at it from above, and it's just like why?
It's because you're not in control.
But you are, even in those moments when you're under those vices, you are at a certain point. But they just weaken your inner self that's on the true self. Those weaken them. And that's why I think like another thing that I really just popped in my head actually that I really dislike is when people say that alcohol brings out a truer, like a more emphasized version of who you are.
Never does.
That's bullshit.
Of course it is. Yeah.
That's such bullshit.
It's not real.
It's not.
'Cause alcohol blurs you from your true self, your true vision.
Yeah.
The only way to achieve, like, all of us are here to achieve some type of enlightenment. Whether that's you believe in God, if you believe in the universe or whatever. We're all here to connect to something deeper and get to the next stage, which is death. And so, like, those things, like alcohol, like saying, like you were saying, what was it? Like you were just saying about alcohol that it, like...
Oh yeah, that how people say that it's like it emphasizes your true self, or that's who you really are when you're under the influence, or like what is it, drunk words or sober thoughts, like.
But that's not even necessarily true, because like I was saying, it's all, anything like that is just a distraction. So it gets you away from what I was saying, your true self.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's like people are really compromising your growth, your enlightenment, like your spiritual enlightenment. If you believe in that path,
like
you would be compromising it with these vices.
100%.
Yeah.
Like literally what we were talking about, how like people are scared to have these conversations. It's the same reason people take up to those vices, because there's moments in I genuinely believe almost everybody every single day has these moments where they are in this state. So a lot of times they're just not around to like produce it, like how we're like talking about it or something like that. So it's just in their head.
Yeah.
And it's really foreign to people, and most of the time in those moments, that's when they're drawn to those vices.
Yeah.
Because they're uncomfortable about these conversations.
Exactly.
Because a lot of the times people have these conversations in their head. Their inner self is telling them these wise things about their life, and you know what I mean? Like how
because
we're talking.
we all are spiritual beings. Like, how are we constructed and up here on this earth having this experience? It's some type of energy.
Yeah.
So when you feel, like you said, those energies, like,
it's telling you something.
It's telling you something, and it stresses people out when they think like that. So they might go to the vices. They might go to the phone to like have this absence of thinking.
Because a lot of times that thing that's telling you something, it's right in some way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And the more you listen to it, the more that your life becomes like interesting.
Yeah.
And it's crazy, bro. Like, I know we talked about this earlier, and I really want to mention it on this talk, is that I think when you tell people that, you know, when you have some type of enlightenment, whatever that is, people feel as if you're calling them out. Like, maybe you're around a bunch of guys who are messed up on drugs and alcohol, and you look around and you don't really want to point it out. But I think sometimes if you do point it out to them, like I was saying, you're not calling them out, you're calling them up.
Yeah.
And I really believe in calling people up. And I know it's not always the right time to call somebody out.
It almost never is.
It almost never is, because everyone's on different paths. But I think in a way, you can call people up to higher consciousness.
100%.
And it's difficult because they're not going to like it, but along the path, they'll understand eventually.
And I think it's also difficult because a lot of us, like, look, I don't want to, like, at the end of the day, I don't want to hurt, like, someone's feelings.
Yeah.
I don't, even when they're, like, enjoying, because a lot of times when they're on weed, on alcohol, all this stuff, they are enjoying it. You don't, at a certain point, you don't want to ruin their vibe.
Yeah.
You don't want to make them start being like, oh, you're right, I shouldn't be doing this. But at a certain point, you have to.
Yeah.
And maybe not you have to, but it's going to help.
Yeah.
Because if they're getting upset about it or something like that, well, then they know something's wrong.
Yeah.
If you tell them all this shit and they're still this jolly, yeah, dude, they're vibing. They're genuinely vibing.
Yeah.
But if you tell them something and they get upset or they get angry or something like that, you know you hit the nerve. You hit something they were already thinking about.
Yeah. And like,
that was affecting them already. It'll only change them for the better just to hit that again. You know what I mean? It's like hitting this like almost like rolling out like a knot with a foam roller. Every time you hit it, it hurts, but you know what I mean? Like, that's how you know that you're hitting the right spot, is that it hurts.
Yeah. And I think when you operate from pure alignment, you know, no vices, and you're just listening to whatever the universe above, whatever you want to call it is you really do start to like see the best in people.
Yeah.
And so like when you see them suffering in some type of ways, like, you know what could help them. And I see a lot of guys, and I'm like, I literally look at them and I see like a beast. I see like a absolute killer, like that could kill it in everything, kill it in fitness, business, all this stuff. And you really do feel like you want to call them up because you see them in a light that they don't even see yet. And we've talked about it. I feel like you can enlighten them in it. And it's almost like you like see them better than they see themselves.
And I think that at the end of the day, that comes from us seeing ourselves so highly, especially after knowing what we saw ourselves at a certain other point in our life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there's been points in my life where I didn't view this highly of myself at all.
Yeah.
You know? But I think once you start doing that, you start seeing that everyone has that.
Because if you know yourself to know others, it's very real. Like, we're all the same.
Yeah.
If you know yourself completely and you've been through a good amount of experiences, even at a young age, even at an older age, you know others.
Yeah.
You really do. Yeah.
So, holy shit. It's pretty good one.
It's a good one, eh? Hey.
Yeah,
I really like that one.
Me too.
Yeah.
There was a couple blunders on my part throughout it, but that's all that makes it raw.
We got a little bit of a bouncy start, but I think there's a starting point we could definitely get to on that one. Let's see.
That was solid.
That was good.